So let's talk about a man who lived thousands of years ago, but whose way of thinking, well, it might be more important today than it ever has been. His name was Socrates, and he basically gave us all a toolkit for leadership, for courage, and for cutting through all the noise to find out what's actually true.
Think about how we measure influence today, right? It's all about followers, book deals, positions of power. Now, try to imagine somebody who had absolutely none of that. He never wrote a single thing down, he didn't command any armies, didn't hold any office. So how in the world did he become one of the most pivotal figures in all of history?
Well, this was his secret weapon. That was it. His entire revolution, his whole legacy, was built on the simple, almost humble act of just asking questions. It was the only tool he used, and with it, he totally reshaped the world.
Now, we're not talking about random, annoying questions. Nope. This was all part of a huge vision he had for how human beings could become wise. And it all started from a really, really unlikely place.
I mean, listen to that. I know that I know nothing. At first glance, it just sounds like he's admitting defeat, right? But for Socrates, this was the exact opposite. This statement, it wasn't the end of the line. It was the starting block for every piece of real understanding.
What's so powerful about that is by admitting you don't have all the answers, you finally open the door to actually learning something. It's this incredible act of intellectual humility. And that, right there, is a form of leadership. Being willing to be wrong so you can find out what's right. Because false confidence, that's a trap. And this was the escape hatch. And this is the question he took to literally everyone in Athens, from the guy making sandals to the most powerful politicians. And it's the same question he's sort of asking us right now. All those things you believe in, the things you're sure are true, are they really as solid as you think?
Okay, so how did he actually do this? Well, he came up with a system, a kind of architecture for thinking that was just incredibly effective. It was a method for taking arguments apart, piece by piece, to see if the foundation was actually solid.
We call it the Socratic method. And here's the key. It's not about winning an argument or making someone look stupid. It's actually a team sport. It's this disciplined process of asking questions to get past all the surface-level stuff and really get to the core of an idea, exposing the weak spots and making what's left even stronger.
You can really break it down into 4 steps. First, you ask the hard questions, the ones that make people squirm a little. Then you poke at the basic assumptions everyone just takes for granted. And when you do that, you pretty much always expose false confidence. People start to see the holes in their own logic. And what's the result? A sharper, clearer mind for everybody in the conversation. Now, Socrates was a product of Athenian democracy. He lived and breathed in it. But, as he was about to find out, going around and challenging everything and everyone, well, that's not always the most popular thing to do. And this is a timeless lesson, isn't it? Especially for anyone trying to lead. Chasing the truth, particularly when it pushes back against what everyone else believes, always comes with a price tag. And for Socrates, that price was going to be everything. I mean, just picture it. He's standing there in the middle of the city square, and one by one, he's showing the most respected people in Athens, the generals, the politicians, the so-called wise men, that their confidence was basically built on sand. He was a genuine threat to the establishment. And the thing is, he just would not stop.
Eventually, the city of Athens just had enough. The establishment decided that this guy, the one asking all the uncomfortable questions, had to be silenced. And so they did what powerful people often do. They put him on trial for his life.
So what did they get him on? The official charges were corrupting the youth and questioning tradition, which, let's be honest, is really just a fancy way of saying he was teaching young people how to think for themselves instead of just blindly accepting what they were told. His very method had become his crime.
This trial, it became the ultimate test. It forced Socrates to figure out what the real center of his life was. Was it just staying alive, or was it the principles he had built his entire identity around?
And the choice they put in front of him was just brutally simple. Option A, silence. Just apologize, promise you'll stop asking all these annoying questions, and you can go home and live out your days. Or option B, integrity. Stand by everything you believe, everything you've taught, and face the ultimate penalty.
In the single most important moment of his life, Socrates didn't flinch. He chose the person he had become over the life he could have had. He chose integrity. It was an absolute masterclass in courage. So, surrounded by his friends, who were absolutely heartbroken, Socrates took the cup of poison hemlock. He faced his own death not with terror, but with that same calm conviction that had guided his entire life. He showed them, and us, that some principles are actually worth more than life itself.
But his death wasn't the end, not by a long shot. In a very real way, it was the act that guaranteed his legacy would be set in motion, making sure his ideas would echo through history forever.
You see, his most powerful lesson wasn't something he said, it's something he did. He showed us what it really means to stand for what's true, to use questions not as weapons to win a fight, but as tools to build understanding, and to always remember that real wisdom starts with admitting you don't know everything. And this is why he's not just some dusty historical figure. His voice is still here. It's that quiet but persistent echo you hear inside your own head every time you have the courage to ask a really difficult question, either of yourself or of someone else.
Which, of course, brings us to his most famous line of all: the unexamined life is not worth living. This wasn't just some catchy phrase. This was his entire philosophy, boiled down. It's a challenge to every single one of us to live our lives with intention, with curiosity, and with integrity.
So, in the spirit of Socrates, we'll end with a question for you. Take a second and really think about it. What is one assumption, one single belief you hold about your job, your relationships, maybe even yourself, that you know you probably need to examine more closely? Because the answer to that question, that could be the start of your own wisdom.